Welcome back to the Sage Audio channel. Today we'll be looking at 4 ways to use drum bus compression. We'll be covering a step-by-step process for creating drum bus compression, as well as some additional techniques that you probably haven't tried yet. Additionally, we'll listen to some examples of each, so stick around for the full video. But first, if you're an artist, engineer, or producer, and you have a mix that you need mastered, send it to us at sageaudio.com. We'll master it for you and send you a free mastered sample of it. All you gotta do is set up the short account, upload the song, and we can do the rest. Number 1, traditional drum bus compression. First, let's cover how to use drum bus compression in its most simple and fundamental form. In this section, we'll cover how to route your drum tracks for bus compression, as well as some of the best settings that you can use for this compression. First, here's how to route your signal for bus compression in Logic Pro X. Step 1, on your channel strip, click on the tab titled Stereo Out. You should now see multiple options. Scroll down to the bus section and select Bus 1 or the next available unused bus. Logic Pro X will automatically create an auxiliary track. Use this same bus for all of your drum tracks. Additionally, you can highlight all of your drum tracks and perform this routing simultaneously. Step 2, title this new auxiliary track Drum Bus. This way you can easily reference and access this bus when your session becomes more complex and more buses are being used. Step 3, you can now use your drum bus to affect all of your drum tracks simultaneously. Because all of your drum tracks are being routed to this auxiliary channel, any processing that you perform will affect all of them. Additionally, notice that the output of your drum bus channel is to the stereo output. Essentially, think of this channel as a barrier between all of your drum tracks and your stereo output. If you mute it, you won't be able to hear your drum tracks. If you turn it down or up, all of your drum tracks will be affected accordingly, and so on. Now that we understand the routing and we've inserted our compressor of choice onto the drum bus channel, let's dial in some of the settings that we want. Now, the primary settings that will affect the timbre and tonality of your drum bus are the attack and release of your drum bus compressor. If you set too quick of an attack, you'll cause the compressor to attenuate the transients of your drums, in turn making them have less impact. Considering snares, hi-hats, toms, and kicks are all identified by their transients, you want to avoid attenuating these transients. The same thing goes for your release setting. Too long of a release, and your compressor will hold onto the signal for too long, which will cause other transients to be caught up by the compressor. With that said, use a shorter release, but not one under 20 milliseconds, as this may cause some distortion on the lower frequencies. Additionally, use subtle compression. If you compress too heavily, then your compression will be noticeable and you won't create an impressive, controlled sound. As a rule of thumb, try to compress between 3 dB and 6 dB of your drums, and possibly even less, depending on the performance and how much your drums have already been compressed. Let's take a listen to this effect. Number 2, bus and parallel compression. Bus compression and parallel compression serve 2 very different purposes. Whereas drum compression is used to create a sense of uniformity amongst all drum tracks, parallel compression is used to squash the signal, for a lack of a better term, and then amplify the lower level aspects of the signal. These lower level aspects are the details that often get masked by louder parts of the signal. For example, the detail of a snare drum that gets masked is the buzz in the ring of the drum, or perhaps the slight rattle of the stick resting on a vibrating drum skin. The point is, these details, although seemingly unimportant at first, are what bring life into a recording. Without them, drums sound dull or boring. With that in mind, it's helpful to know how to utilize both bus compression and parallel compression when trying to create an impressive drum sound. Let's check out a step-by-step process for incorporating parallel compression into your drum bus compression. Step 1. Accomplish all of the steps that we discussed in the first section. That is to route your drum tracks accordingly and set up your drum bus compression. Just like before, create the best possible settings for your drum bus compression using subtle and intentional compression and thoughtful attack and release times. Step 2. With your drum bus compression set up, use an auxiliary send to split the routing of your drum bus channel to another auxiliary channel. Now keep in mind that this is not the same as changing the output of the drum bus channel, as that would route the full signal to another channel. Instead, we're using a send. Step 3. Set the send to unity. Now this means that a signal identical to your drum bus is being routed to this new auxiliary channel. Label this new auxiliary channel parallel drum comp or something similar so you know what it is. Step 4. Insert a compressor on your parallel drum compression channel. I'm going to use the Drummer 73 so that I can accomplish multi-band compression, but choose a compressor that you like the tonality of. Step 5. Heavily compress the signal and use makeup gain to compensate for the amount of signal that you've attenuated. When heavily compressing your parallel drum channel, still retain the longer attack and shorter release settings to maintain your drum's dynamics. Step 6. Using the channel fader, slowly blend the heavily compressed signal back in until you feel that you've reached the right balance between low-level signal and your original signal. Let's take a listen to it. Number 3, emphasis and de-emphasis compression. The emphasis and de-emphasis technique started as a way for vinyl records to be properly played back. In short, as the needle of a turntable moved closer towards the center of a record and the velocity slowed, high frequencies couldn't be replicated. Now, to counteract this, engineers began introducing a high-frequency boost on the tracks that were sequenced in the center of the record. Now, since then, this technique doesn't get used too often, but it definitely has its uses. Now, when you're compressing drums via a drum bus channel, you can use an equalizer before the compressor to amplify certain frequencies, the idea being you'll make the compressor work harder in these areas, causing more compression to those frequencies. To counteract the original EQ boost, an equal and opposite EQ curve can be introduced after the compressor. In this instance, the first equalizer is the emphasis, and the second equalizer that's placed after the compressor is the de-emphasis. Now, where I think this effect becomes more useful for drum compression is in the inverse setup of the technique, that is, to use a de-emphasis and then an emphasis equalizer. In other words, you'd use the first equalizer to attenuate the signal. This way the compressor won't compress or attenuate certain aspects of the signal while still compressing other aspects of the signal. Then follow the compressor with the emphasis or the additive equalizer. So let's say you want the kick drum to pass through relatively unaffected, but you want to compress your mid-range more heavily. What you could do is use subtractive equalization on the low frequencies and additive equalization on the mid-frequencies before compression. After the compression, create the equal and opposite curve of the first equalizer. Now you might be thinking at this point, why not just use a multi-band compressor? Now, that's an absolutely valid point. You can use a multi-band compressor to accomplish just about the same thing as an emphasis and de-emphasis technique. But if you don't have a multiband compressor, or more commonly, your favorite compressor for bus compression doesn't include multiband compression, then you'll want to use this technique. Let's take a listen to it. Number 4, harmonic distortion following bus compression. Now, this last technique is a very simple one. All you need to do is use an analog emulation plugin, preferably one designed to create harmonics, and insert it either before or after your compression plugin. If you place it on the drum bus channel before your compression, you'll in turn compress the added harmonics in addition to the original signal. Now, this can make them more prevalent if makeup gain is used, or if you combine this technique with technique number 2. Or you can place this harmonic generator plugin after your compression, in turn generating harmonics off of the more controlled and tonally uniform signal. Lastly, you can use harmonic generation both before and after the compression. In this instance, you'll create the most distortion, in turn making your drums have the most presence and intensity. Now, although this won't sound great on every genre, it does work well when you want your drums to stick out in a mix. Just be sure not to use excessive settings on either plugin, and especially not both. Now let's take a listen to this effect. So these are our choices for 4 ways that you can use drum bus compression, but what do you think? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, if you're an artist or an engineer, send us one of your mixes at sageaudio.com. We'll master it for you and send you a free mastered sample. All you gotta do is set up this account, upload the song, and we can do the rest. But thank you so much for watching. We really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and share this video with your friends. This way we know if you'd like to see more videos like this one. Also, you can subscribe to the channel. We release new videos every week, and subscribing is the best way to stay up to date. There's a comment section where you can leave your thoughts on this video, or you can make a suggestion for a future video. And again, if you're an artist or an engineer and you have a mix that you need mastered, send it to us at sageaudio.com. We'll master it for you and send you a free mastered sample. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.